Are definitely in the road to 3.14. I wanted to show you how to get to the roadmap and some of the changes that happened today that were put on to the 3.14 roadmap and updates in general to the roadmap system. So when you're on the RSI website, go to development and then attempt to drag your mouse across without it falling apart and hit roadmap. Inside here, there's a couple different views, and it can be a bit overwhelming at first. But what I prefer to do is literally hit this release view. Release view makes everything pretty. Now, this is not perfect because, by the way, it looks like if you see this committed symbol, this means that they have committed to putting these entries into 3.14. That does not mean that there isn't going to be other things in 3.14. This is a summary style view. That's a waste there. And you can see like the last roundup was on this and that, but it also, if you note up here, updated June 25th. So this is a nice little thing to see, to say the least. You can get a good gist of everything that's going to be in 3.14, and there's no surprises on this page. We're going to go into the other pages a little more in depth in just a moment, but I wanted to show you that this also gives you kind of reassurances of what you're going to see. The Taurus will be in, volumetric cloud supporting Crusader will be in, the new HUDs will be in. Still haven't seen confirmation that it's all ships getting the new canvas slice HUD, but I think quite a few will get it, and it'll be interesting to see how those fancier new HUDs translate over from ships like the Gladius into larger vessels. It's a lot of information on the HUD, but as the bigger ships, I believe that they'll really shine with the extra information. I hope customization comes soon after. So if you like less content, you can throw it up there in front of your face while you're trying to fly. The HUD is your heads-up display, a lot like a fighter jet or a, heck, probably even commercial planes or space aircraft already have those things as well. That allows you to see information without having to look down at the gauges and information on the screens and such, which, by the way, are already customizable, don't forget. But this is just one more step in keeping your eyes on flying and not on your instruments whenever possible, when the conditions allow for that, for visual flight capabilities, which is most of the game nowadays. So there's also the surrender mechanics, which we talked about before. They had said on Friday, it was revealed that the surrender mechanics are basically a bit gutted, unfortunately. It'll say remain stationary. You got bad product inside your ship. We're gonna arrest you now, and then you fade into the prison. Eventually, what surrender mechanics will mean is that you do not have to have a timer for getting your ship back when you finally do get out of prison, and you should have a reduced sentence. But it is the building block to get that into the game. Apparently, it just fades in. You end up in the prison without a big scary explosion. And hopefully that they will have that reduced, if not no timer on your ship. That's important for people that don't have a lot of ships, or you're in your favorite ship. Like, say you only have one trade vessel or something like that for your work, for your work flow, for your style of gameplay. Well, if you only have one cat and you get caught with an entire cat full of slam, let's say, you don't want to have to wait 30 minutes for your timer after you get done your 15-minute prison sentence or whatever it is. So that's just a thought. The missile operator mode, they said this already. It's a really improved system. It's not just the launching of the missile. It's the lock-on system. It's the confirmations. There's a lot in there. This is all tied together, the guidance, control, and rework in the missile operator mode. One key thing to think about with these things is that they are not able to be done by the co-pilot seat right now. Hang on a minute. Actually, sorry. They are able to be done by the co-pilot seat, but the capacitor type changes are not able to be done in the co-pilot seats yet in 3.14. That's going to be coming very soon after. JC mentioned that in the Star Citizen live on Friday. You're going to notice that me referencing things from Thursday and Friday throughout this video, because ISC, Inside Star Citizen, which is on Thursdays when it's in not on hiatus like it is now, And Star Citizen Live, which is usually on Fridays when it's active, are very important things because they sit down a bunch of devs, and whether they're prearranged discussions that are edited or whether they're live, a lot of good content comes out of those across multiple teams. For example, the one on Friday had Todd Pappy, that's gameplay pillar. And then you also had JC, that's ship pillar right there. And Ian, who's a great concept artist and getting a lot of the vision of Star Citizen going. So that was a great combination. I'll be honest with you, I was wrong. I speculated that they were going to talk about, drop a little Theaters of War reference in there. I thought Todd and Ian were going to just be like, oh, by the way, this is coming to 3.14 or 3.141. I was hoping it was going to be a surprise. If they really led us by the nose and they put Sean Tracy on the list, we'd be like, oh, we got it. And then when they mentioned they're going to have a surprise guest, I was like, oh, maybe that's Sean Tracy. No, it's JC. And don't get me wrong, John Crew is a great guy to have on for these events. He had a lot of things to dig through, and I'm glad he was there. It's just, I would have liked to have seen Theaters of War be developed a little bit more, because that is a great testing platform for CIG to get information and gives the community one more way to really enjoy the verse in a stronger way and kind of bring back the community that enjoyed Star Marine and Arena Commander and really bolster them. I would have loved to play a combined arms type battlefield game. Anyway, 3.14, power management, radar scanning, and pings. This is all tied together as well. It's not a coincidence. These are all under the gameplay section. But Power Management V2 is the capacitor gameplay. We talked about this in depth in other videos. I'm going to be careful how much I go in depth. And radar scanning and pings. In the Friday discussion, JC mentioned that the IR and your emissions of different kinds will matter the most. So electronic and thermal emissions and such will matter greatly when it comes to scanning. In fact, if a massive ship is being escorted by a small ship, he said that you will actually have to maneuver your ship or your scanning mechanism around to try to lock on to the tiny ship that is trying to escort it. So it would actually be viable for the ship being escorted to actually try to almost ram the attacker to basically buy the escorting ship time to be able to really wail on the attacker for a little bit. And that's actually a viable gameplay mechanism, at least in this early version of radar scanning and systems. The ping differences are not impacted by ground clutter. I'll say that again. The pinging is not impacted by ground clutter. That means if you think you're hidden from an enemy player or from if you're trying to find a PvE element or a mission element or a mining node, it will not be impacted by, say, a mountain. It is literal distance, and it is its emissions factors that are what are the most important things when it comes to radar and scanning and the pinging system at this moment. Also, this is not deep space probes. They are coming. They are certainly implemented. The Thursday discussion with the EU team discussed that in depth. It is fantastic. I have a video. I will put it into the end of this video. But it is where I break it down, their discussion points, and they have a lot in there, including discussion on refineries, which we're going to get to in a little bit. But the way that is being handled, just understand that it is not impacted by ground clutter or hiding behind an asteroid or something else. You will get seen, or you will see what you're looking for. And it is short range, where it's literally from your ship. Capacitors are very simple. The triangle in front of your screen will matter now. If you missed the video, we discussed that a bit more in depth. But basically, tiny ships will have a shield that is 100% around the vessel without facing anymore. And bigger ships will keep the facing, where you'll have to constantly turn the vessel to keep, the stronger shield as the shields get wailed on by enemies, to keep your shield faces strong. Also, using the triangle of propulsion, weaponry, and shields, and moving that around. Right now it sits at 33%, 33%, 33%, will matter greatly for things like shield recharge rate, weapons capabilities, afterburner boosting, all sorts of exciting things that are absolutely critical. And for example, a hauler during regular operations may want to go 50-50 into shields and propulsion. so you have a little more maneuverability if you're have a near miss at the docks or something, or if you get surprise hit by an enemy ship or something. Having that extra power and shields and propulsion may save your life. So just some thoughts there. Capacitor gameplay is exciting. It will not be from your co-pilot seat, but it will be in the game. And down the line, your co-pilot will be able to adjust that capacitor gameplay. Yeah, so planets, Crusader, goes without saying, and the Orison landing zone that is on it are both confirmed. We've had videos about this. As a small Easter egg, I wanted to show you something nice here. So Xylo, CIG Xylo, posted up on his Twitter page just, well, technically I guess this is yesterday, but these are some nice little action shots from Orison. I love the detail of them. So I saw these in video. Please ignore whatever these comments are. I do not have control over the comments. Maybe I can bump these out. No, I think that's the next. Yeah, I can't get rid of the comments. Or can I? Yes! Yes, I can. So, don't get me wrong. Wolf of Wall Street's great movie about a horrible man, but it is probably not the best thing to have on this type of video. So, what we're talking about here is not about Martin Scorsese excellent movie. We're talking about Orison and its drop landing zones on the upper atmosphere of Crusader. Now, this is a nice action shot. We've seen something, either this exact shot or something close to this, in Star Citizen, inside Star Citizen, as kind of like B-roll footage while they spoke over it. And these are the volumetric clouds, which are huge, so flying through them will not feel like much unless you like break out like time-lapse camera, like you sit there for 20 minutes, maybe you'll be able to see something from what we've been seeing and hearing. And that's one more. This right here is probably going to be the cover art for this video. This to me speaks what Orison truly is about. It's not just beautiful sunset vistas. It's not just a place that's gleaming in the clouds, but that's really at its core what its attraction is. Now, I've said before that if they truly want Orison to be this amazing place that is usable by many players and desirable for many players to base out of, please, 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 CIG, we need to be able to dock Javelins and Hull D and E and any other future craft of that size. I'm not talking about Bengals here, but I'm talking about player-managed ships that can be docked already in space at that kind of a little bit bigger capital than what we're used to seeing. We're not a bit bigger than for reference, Idrises and Krakens can go planet-side. They can go on moons. They can do different things. The Kraken can't gracefully go through Atmo, but it can go through Atmo. Now, the Javelin and the Hull D and E class cannot go into atmosphere at this time. But Crusader has a unique atmosphere, and it's a unique location as a gas giant with varying degrees of gravity. This is actually rather low gravity where they're at, but still breathable. It's like a Goldilocks within the planet itself. It's a fascinating place with no solid core to this planet. And the UEE purposely picked this place to build ships for a long time before Crusader took it over and then slowly went, hey, you guys are selling planets, we want it bad. And Crusader happens to build in the lore a Jupiter-class carrier. It's like a civilian carrier, more meant to carry like huge amounts of ships. We have very little information on it, but that is the gist of the Jupiter. And they even have floating barges, massive floating barges that we've seen in the official video trailers for this cutscenes in ISC. I cannot help but wonder if CIG will attempt to allow Javelins and Hull Ds and Es, or at least will consider it. Worried about balance and such and fairness to the smaller ships, etc., etc. But if they do, this place will become the hub of all major organizations. It will be the place to be. Like, okay, if you're a miner and you're in smaller ships, you can hang out in Lorville or if you're into, more RP elements or bounty hunting type gameplay or whatever else, you get Area 18 and all these other places you hang out on stations. But planetary services are essential for a massive organization, and the biggest hangars are going to be, remember, we are going to have org hangars eventually. I believe that Orison can be that capital, that gleaming headquarters for not just Crusader, but also for large player organizations. All they need to do is allow these large ships to be able to come here safely and dock, and make it cost an immense amount of fuel for them to do so. And it's a big deal. Maybe there's extra hangar fees attached to those large ships, or it's a capability, like an org has to pay extra as a part of a hangar fee to get these super hangars for these amazingly large capital ships. But if they do, this place will be truly something, an ace in the hole for it, and truly something special. I think also other ships should have lower fuel costs, by the way, to go here, because it is lower gravity and it's in already upper atmo. You're not burning 100,000 kilometers through an atmosphere to a planetary surface like at Lorville or something. You are literally going to the upper atmo. So it should be interesting. So this is the actual roadmap roundup. And by the way, I didn't cheat you guys if you're wondering, like, why is he going somewhere different? We just completed the 3.14 overalls. And these are mostly not from today, to be honest. But the post for today that was posted up by our friend here, Ulf, mainly note smaller things. So I wanted to go through the big changes, what you can expect for 3.14 if you missed older videos, and now we're going right into the smaller specific changes that now we can be ready to talk about, because we're in this. I am in the Spectrum post for this topic, and why I like these more than the one where you click on the main page. So if I was on RSI's main page and I clicked Roadmap Roundup, which is like the top news story right now, and I'll show you that. I like to try to show people different things from the steps from stage one, like, hey, how'd you get there? It's also available in the launcher itself. If you go into the Star Citizen launcher, you can also click the Roadmap Roundup from there, which is available here. So when you click this, this is the page you get. I don't like this page because it does not include community input and responses from the devs. And I'm not quite sure if they edit the other page, if this page gets updated as well. I don't know if it's two different teams or something like that. Once again, I'm trying to be more open about how I do development and how I think about these things. And when you click on the damn link, it takes you to this. And it's like, this isn't any good. But if you go into the Spectrum General chat, so if you do click on that link, you would go to General. And at the top, pinned at the top, for any type of these news stories, Roadmap Roundup, June 30th. You click on that, and it takes you right to where I initially showed you. Okay, so let's just stick with that. And let's also close. Xylo, thank you for posting these. The reason I added these to the story, I'm going to put a link to this Twitter post that he made in this video. The reason I like these is because they're a bit higher res than if you were to pause the videos and just grab the screen. So if you're looking for a desktop wallpaper, maybe you can just crop this little piece out here. I don't know. I'm not advocating for anything specific, but anything official. But I think these are wonderful little things if you're excited about Orison and you're if you're just a huge Crusader fan. This one, for example, is just beautiful. It looks like what Disney wishes when Walt was still around. It looks like what Disney wishes Futureland was going to be and such. It's amazing. Anyway, on to the actual roadmap roundup for today. It's a very small post. So if we skip Xylo's discussion and we go into what's here, we have rest stop hangar replacements that has been added to the progress tracker. So these are things that have been kind of snuck in there. You have atmospheric pressure damage. This was spoke about on Thursday inside Star Citizen, where atmospheric pressure damage is what's going to happen if you go deeper into the system, into Crusader's core. So if you go pat. Just to be clear, if you go to Orison, you will not be hurt. You will not be destroyed in any way from the atmosphere, from space whales when they eventually make it in the game in much later patches. Thank you, everyone who's convoed me about that. Yes, I know the space whales aren't coming in 3.14. Yes, I'm also bummed out about it, and it is something that's going to be very exciting. It's a shame. It didn't make it. I too am very excited. I think me and Ash we're already joking about having like space whale tractor beam parties, where like Ranger Rick from Crusader Labs is like constantly has to maintain the maintain the whales to keep the people away from them and keep the whales away from the people. Anyway, atmospheric pressure damage is going to be something that happens much deeper below Crusader. If you continue to go towards the center of the planet, over time, your ship will basically go pop, like a submarine going deeper and deeper and deeper into pressure changes in the water as it hits deeper and deeper BAR elements of atmosphere under the water. Now, no, water is not the same as space. Yes, I know that. But atmospheric pressure damage, interestingly, will also play in the future, as the EU team mentioned, both in water physics, can be applied that way, and can be applied at Crusader. And even damage from weapons. So thermobaric munitions, for example, in real life, that create like a pressure differential, and that's how they create damage, would easily be, well, not easily, but they will be able to be implemented ideally in the future if CIG sees necessary, and that would certainly add some depth to the missile options we have in the game. Atmospheric pressure damage, the first iteration of it, is just going to be on Crusader. It is just going to be so people that attempt to go deeper than Orison will basically have a damage check. And each ship will be different. So they cited, for example, the Starfarer should have more capability to go deeper into the atmosphere than, say, a tiny little ship like the Arrow fighter that's not really built for that. It's not built for science or having to deal with gas explosions on mining sites or something like that. So that's a good example of like one versus the other. In the case of industrial ships or transport ships, it may actually behoove you to take the risk and just dive deeper into the cloud cover than try to run back to Atmo and warp quantum out if an enemy is pursuing you, or if a pirate's trying to get you a PvE or PvP, because your ship may be able to do it deeper. We're going to have to see how that looks. So the first iteration of it, I hope there isn't just a death wall where like every single ship that hits a certain level just pops. Obviously, your limitations are severe. Your game is severely limited then. But if it's, I hope they do the iteration, because they mentioned every ship will have a different level of pressure they can take. And one example is the Endeavor's cab, which one of the viewers pointed out, thank you for that the Endeavor's cab has the ability to like go up to a sun and literally explore it and not explode. So the Endeavor cab, for example, which also has some SCU on board, would be ideal to operate in this deep atmosphere, and other places that like other ships simply cannot go. It's kind of an interesting little nuanced niche for gameplay. And also, if you're spying on enemy organization, or if you're trying to constantly operate in Crusader, it would obviously be a good idea. If you're not paying attention and you go too deep into the system, you might get a little more warning before you explode. Anyway, spacescaping, so utilizing gas cloud tech and BDB elements to space out in the environments of Squadron 42. I've got no opinion on this. It's Squadron 42. I'm glad to see if anything that gets it closer out the door is nice. I hope it doesn't impact the verse development for the persistent universe. That's all I have to say. Refinery ships. Certain ships will have refineries built into them, allowing players to process ore using a completely onboard process. We have already received confirmation from the EU team on Thursday's ISC that the Starfarer and the Starfarer G will both have refineries in them, as was expected. What was not expected was, if you catch this, the way he writes this, so Ulf here put process ore using a completely onboard process. The refinery on the Starfarer and the Star G will be able to do liquids or material, solid materials. And you will have to do preparations in the refinery. It will be an entire process, and you'll need certain. They talked about like having precursors, like certain kinds of acid, for example, for ores, to break them down. And it will be a whole complicated thing, but you will be able to do liquids and be able to refine ores. Maybe not at the same time, obviously. You'll have to pick one or the other. And you may need to prepare that maybe at a station and then go out and do your work. But it is there. We'll have to see what other certain ships will have refineries built into them. But, and if those certain ships will have that crossover, the Starfarers may be the only ones right now that can do liquids and solids in the same refinery system. I find that interesting, very interesting. And once again, I've been saying it for ages, the Starfarer will be very valuable when we start talking about Pyro that can be over 2 times larger than the distance you have to travel inside of it than Stanton is already. Smaller ships that are fuel hogs, that are bigger even, we'll need these Starfarers, and they've been worth their weight in gold. And yes, I know they cannot mine the fuel. I know they cannot mine it any longer. But a symbiotic relationship between a Starfarer and a ship that can mine will suddenly become that much more valuable. And also, if we have mining drones down the line, how they'll go, I would be very curious to see if that will be a crossover for something else. Maybe a ship that's designed to transport, such as a Starfarer, which has a decent-sized cargo hold, will be able to have a couple drones shoved in there. Or maybe it won't. Maybe, oh, well, you can't fit those because you don't have the special blades to handle drone AI. But the ship you're trying to service can. A good example of this could be the Carrack. The Carrack has an entire array of drones. It has an entire drone room with drone controls, and they said it can even disable mines. It just can't do much with them after it reprograms or disables them. It will also have those capacities. If the Carrack could have mining drones, then all of a sudden you could have a Starf G and a Carrack, or a regular Starfarer for the record, it carries a little bit more SCU, and those two symbiotic relationship, where literally they could zip around Pyro, Carrack doing its thing and exploring and constantly documenting new information and jump points and everything else, and the Starfarer literally refining the fuel that the Carrack grabs. Remember, it doesn't need like an entire fleet of fuel. In these circumstances of smaller organizations that need to think of every single ship they bring out in a tiny fleet, having multiple roles is important. And being able to maximize every single ship. Bringing a luxury ship will not be a useful thing unless that luxury ship can also do other things. Like the 890 jump I spoke about being a baby carrier, especially with the changes to weapon systems coming and capital shields and armor and hull actually mattering, where it can literally just laugh off a small fighter attacking it. That is going to change the game dramatically. And this is something to think about with these ships that are a bit larger, or even capital class or baby capitals, being able to move around, and then also think about all the knock-on effects. So an 890 jump, though, okay, that sounds great, but what happens when you start warping around Pyro in that thing? It's a gas hog. Well, now you need a Starfarer. Okay, well, if we have a Starfarer, we need a 2-person crew at the minimum to really manage it, because the refinery is apparently in a full-time job per the EU crew. And they talked about how it could actually explode or damage the refinery if you're not paying absolute attention to it, and it will not, under any circumstances, be AFK work. There you go. Okay, now we got a ground level here. We need 2 people. Okay, well, an org that's only 5 men and women, you may have to deal with the fact that we don't have 5 people all the time, so we have 4. Okay, well, if 2 are tied up on a Starfarer, only 2 could be tied up on, say, a Carrack or an 890 or whatever the heck it is. And maybe that's not the right ship for the job then. Maybe we need to go a little smaller, You see where this is going. I think also alt accounts will become more valuable. And this is all tied into a single sentence on a roadmap roundup. You can see how we can get in the weeds here. I tried to make this more of a distilled environment, but it is a lot to cover. When I popped this up and I saw the specifics about Orison and Cloud Tech being pushed into Squadron and Refinery Ships, I was like, oh, this is going to be a deeper video. So I apologize to anybody expecting the shorties today. It's just, I'm at the mercy of whatever's delivered to me from CIG and from other sources. So Ruin Station, more time and resources being allocated to the rest of Pyro system. Therefore, we are temporarily removing this deliverable from the progress tracker until its schedule has been finalized. This is a huge, huge problem. When something is removed from the roadmap, we lose visibility on it. And not just that, confidence in players can change dramatically. If Pyro is delivered without Ruin Station, the station they were hoping to move closer to the jump point, last I heard from rumors, there is a unfortunate knock-on effect that the system will be even... It's already inhospitable, and it's already difficult for new players to access, and people that are trying to learn how to operate long distances. We need that station, or at the very least, a placeholder station. I mean, even if it... This is heresy, but let's call it Port Pyrosar and just literally copy and paste the old Port Olisar and put it in there until you're ready for Ruin Station. Like, put something that's rock solid, reliable, and we all know works, even if it doesn't work for everything. But it does fuel load, it can do ship spawning ASAP, it can do respawning of players, it can do deliveries of cargo and refinery work, it can do missions. Like, that's the thing we really need. And maybe it's not that specific station, but whatever the easiest possible station is, even if it's not the best one, put it in there, slap it in place, because we need to have a habitable location, at least one little safe haven in this desolate place. I can remember in EVE Online, there would be low-sec systems that we would operate out of back before I got into OO work, and we would be, nasty pirates, but we were actually pretty cool about it. We honored ransoms, and we had a lot of blue lists and such, and we tried to operate with friends and do missions and such. And one of the things that we found was being able to retreat to a single station in a very dangerous place was a godsend. There was times where we'd have, like, I don't know, a 50, 60, 70 person fleet come into system from OO, from the player-owned areas of EVE, and literally camp us into station. And if we didn't have that station, we would have been obliterated. Our passes would get in-capped and all sorts of fun stuff. This was in the early days of me playing EVE Online. But it was... it allowed the little guy to exist. The little person that is trying to play with their friends, 2 or 3 people, they need that, at least that basic form of infrastructure. So I really hope that they don't make the mistake of rolling Pyro out without at least some basic level. I know they're trying to release rest stops as well. This right here is probably tied in with the Pyro rest stops that they're constantly trying to get prepared. They've added a couple at key locations because they're terrified of, like, the idea of, like, half the server has ships that are out of fuel sitting in the middle of nowhere, mid-quantum or something, or near a planet in Pyro. They didn't realize they can't get back because they didn't calculate enough. But we still need that base location that allows you to respawn, that allows you to spawn ships. Even if it's dangerous and it's scary and it's whatever, you can switch servers. You can move around. You can, more importantly, form up fleets with your friends, and then go out into the danger, and then go out into the unhospitable world of Pyro. So that's important. I really hope they don't mess that up. Anyway. The EU-PU gameplay team is allocating resources in Q4 to Refinery Ships, so we're removing this deliverable temporarily until it has been put back onto the schedule. This right here, I know this is kind of unfair of me because I'm going to say something weird here. I'm okay with this because they talked extensively about Refinery Ships. Like I said, in the end of this video, I'm going to put the ISC breakdown into this into the card because it is very valuable. It is... their in-depth discussion of refineries literally explains it point by point in painful detail what it will be. And I'm okay with that. And they clearly have a vision. They clearly have been working on it. They know what ships they're going to implement first, the Starfarers. We are going to see that. We are going to see that. Hold me to it. Mock me if you want. But by the beginning of next year, I am expecting refinery ships, at least in some extremely basic level, like literally a cargo thing where it's like just like our inventory system is now, where it's like one box on the left, one box on the right, and literally you just drag and drop the fuel you mined, and it falls into there, and it becomes a usable fuel. And then later on, they'll add in, the pretty refining steps and all the danger and all the precursor chemicals and whatever else you need. But I'm expecting a basic level, but it will be there. And finally, these final reviews. So we went through the basics of this already, but you can see the Planet Crusader, Orison Landing Zone, and the supporting volumetric clouds for the Orison Landing Zone and Crusader have all passed their final review, and they toggled their cards to committed and changed their color to blue. This is very important because when we are talking about this close to 3.14, one of the biggest things that I was worried about was seeing a huge piece of content like Orison Landing Zone being pulled, dropping a new type of pretty cloud into Crusader without the crown jewel, the Orison Landing Zone, being in there, at least in some basic level, where it has the factory, the main landing zone that oohs and ahs you, the Galleria type jewelry place. I think it's called Stratus, 2-story tall mall that gives you all the services you need with food and drink and clothing, armor, all that fun stuff. Maybe weapons, all that fun stuff is in there. That's essential. And I know I'm being a little unfair here, but I haven't heard much about mission givers, so I'm hoping that they at least have somebody in there, even if it's a placeholder, to do 5 or 6 different kinds of missions, and there's a drop box somewhere. That would truly kind of fill out this first version of Orison. We haven't heard anything about it. Don't hold them to it, but I'm just suggesting it. And I guess I would call that speculation right there, just to be safe. Ship interior exterior culling. This deliverable has been renamed to Ship Interior OC Streaming and has been given a more accurate description. This is very frustrating. So it's not even on the list because they haven't updated exactly today, but back to this again. Back to Friday, Star Citizen Live, John Crew said a lot of very good information and gave us a lot of answers. And one of the things that did frustrate me, though, unfortunately, was that the change of capacitors to Power Management V2. Power Management V2 is supposed to be more all-encompassing, and that makes sense, but they've spent over a year talking about capacitors, and now all of a sudden you've renamed it on the roadmap to Power Management V2. In the videos, you refer to it as Power Management V2 with just a tiny little addendum at the beginning of the Friday one going, oh, by the way, it used to be called capacitors, or at least that's part of it now. And anyway, here's what it is. This is another example of that. Ship interior exterior culling. I'm not going to say it was exactly called ship interior exterior culling, at least based on my memory, but culling was the word. Culling was the important word. Everyone spoke about server meshing and culling. And server streaming was important too, but we all heard the word culling. It's a very important word. Basically, it means very philosophy 101 here. If the bear, hears the tree fall, it fell, but if they don't, they don't. Literally, it means if I'm looking at it as a player, it exists. The minute I turn my back and walk 10 kilometers down the road, everything that's 10 kilometers behind me is suddenly being culled away because it's no longer necessary to be rendered out. And that means that will be a big performance increase for players and also less risk of desyncing and all sorts of other knock-on effects that come with not having to load as much on people's computers. One of the things, unfortunately, I've had to tell my friends that play with me and workmates that you have to have 32 gigs of RAM. And I've heard people say on the forums you don't. But in fact, when it comes especially to Jump Week or the IAE Expo, these type of major events, unfortunately, you really do. Because I have seen it time and time again when I run on my 16 gig system that turn around and I'd have these spikes of RAM that are near top. And it's almost unplayable or it literally crashes the computer. It crashes the game. Whereas if I run it on my 32 gig RAM system, which is almost the exact same specs, it runs great. And plain and simple, I do not have these. I actually will see RAM spikes that go over my 16 gigs because of Star Citizen, especially with the fireworks in New Babbage this year. I even posted on Spectrum begging them to reduce this fireworks, because if I'm getting impacted even slightly by it, or a little bit by it, I know that there are other players that are sitting on that 16 gigs of RAM and they're getting nailed by it. And for the record, I don't have no supercomputer, okay? I got a 7700K, I got 32 gigs of RAM, and I've got a vanilla 2080, if you really want to know. That's my specs. I built it myself. It's got a heck of a lot of cooling, and it's coddled, but it's overclocked as well on its CPU only. And that is what I'm running. And there are many folks I've run into that have less equipment on their systems. Although, to be fair, some of them now have 3000 series graphics cards because they're very blessed, or they're willing to pay a premium. Good for them. So they're surpassing me by a lot now. I have one friend who has, like, I think it's a 5000 series Intel, or a 6000K, like a 6700K or something like that. And they are rocking now a 3080. Sure, cool. I'm pretty sure there's a bottleneck there, but I mean, great for your future proofing. You know, you can literally take that card and put it into a new computer if you decide to build one down the road. So I can't really blame them. But back to this culling stuff. It is very much so about your computer's hardware that the culling is necessary. And it's also for your org mates. So I alluded to that, and I built that into the discussion because I'm trying to say this. It is just because you can run it does not mean everyone on your ship can. And that's important. And it's also important for a player's experience that's near you. If you spawn in your shiny Idris that you get, or earn it in game, or you've been blessed enough to be able to own one, you know, and such with LTI and whatever, you shouldn't be crashing the poor guy that's next to you, you know, just because your ship exists. So I think that the interior and exterior culling is very important. I think that ship interior OC streaming just adds to the confusion of something that should be celebrated. I think the culling would be a great step forward if it's done effectively, and it is going to help those larger, even capital class vessels be that much more practical in the PU and allow us to have higher player counts. Because plain and simple, if there is 50 players on a server and all 50 players show up with ships, you will desperately need interior and exterior culling to get anything done. Streaming in information for each ship's interior, only if you're standing on the interior, I'm guessing that's what that's doing, would be really cool. So this does inform you a bit more of what it's actually trying to be. And I understand that and respect that, but at the same time, you're changing the name. You need to have some type of change log that is showing what this was called. Okay, so without further ado, let's go into the roadmap, which you would click on right here. Now, I chose to switch browsers here. I just wanted to mention this. It seems like Chrome seems to be more likely practical for this. Maybe the internal Chromium style browser, I think it's Chromium, that the CIG browser uses might be another good option, but we'll see. This is how the progress tracker for the roadmap looks in its state when you hit deliverables. So this is the one you see at first. I am not the biggest fan of this because it's kind of overwhelming. You know, like, aside from the EU team, the EU Player Universe team that was on Thursdays, inside Star Citizen, and they covered a lot of these things. I don't know exactly what other team, you know, is to cover different things. Like, for example, atmosphere pressure damage. We talked about this already. I like the fact that they're still working on it and that it will constantly be developed. Also, because we're looking at this and we can see, remember, this got updated, so we know that it's going to be all the way into September they're working on this. So, well, it's probably not going to make it in 3.14. It's probably going to be a 3.14.1. You can even see the updated date, which I love the fact they do that. Because I know that it's more recent. It's not something that's been sitting around forever with the different information. Refinery Ships. This is another one. Once again, you can see that it was updated June 25th. And it's showing that it's way out there into quarter 4. And like I said, I would not be surprised seeing 2022, the beginning of it, at least have some type of drag and drop system in the Starfarer to do basic refining, probably for fuels. It's going to be essential for Pyro. That's my reasoning. Um, Stations in Pyro are very dangerous. They're covered by player and PvE pirates that you're going to be fighting. Probably you're going to have jobs by the CDF to go in and bounty hunt and hunt pirates that are getting a little out of control or from the UEE. Then you're going to suddenly go and dock at a place that's full of them and then want to get refueled. It's not going to happen. So people that are not pirate friendly will need some other method to be able to go in, or go to those rest stops and guard them, I guess, with your fleet while each of you takes turns refueling. It's going to be messy. And if other players are involved, look out. Well, if there is refining ships that you can operate, such as Starfarers, where you can carry fuel out and even refine fuel, you can do those extended journeys through Pyro and practice long-term fleet operations, which is going to be very valuable for work people. And most importantly, people that want to play along, you're going to be able to keep retention and gameplay. Each night, your teammates are going to, your org mates are going to want to log in the strong time zones and be like, hey, yeah, I'm really enjoying this content. It's easy for me to access. I'm having a great time. Let's go kill some more pirates, or let's go defend the system from those evil CDF forces, as they make incursions into Pyro or something, or let's go loot some haulers. There's going to be a lot to do, or do some dangerous mining. The longer term player experiences are critical to building up organizations. And the more you build up organizations, the more people are getting back something from Star Citizen. They're involved more in Star Citizen, and the community is stronger for it. So ship-to-ship refueling is something that was not covered in the roadmap update, but it was also something the EU team did mention. They explained how it's going to have like this system of, right now it's going to be just you dock with the ship, like i.e. the Starfarer, and when you dock with them, you can get refueled. You can be refueled by them. But eventually they're hoping to have some type of more complicated refueling system that's going to be available down the line. Or how's it going to look when multiple, like say one Starfarer has to refuel another, or any other ship that can do refueling capacity will do these things. Also, this is not like the Kraken is coming, in quarter 3, 2021. That is not the case. So don't go expecting just because refueling mechanics are in, some massive capital ship that has it will suddenly be available in the game. Also, I think they said drones will not be available, at least in the first iteration. Like, for example, we talked about earlier about Carrick having refueling drones. The Crucible is another example of a ship with refueling drones. They will not be in the game in the first iteration. Down the line, we'll see. Drone ops is something that they are working on. But in this first iteration, you'll simply dock. And even if you have zero fuel, the EU team mentioned, you will be able to have like this secret little bit of reserve fuel sitting in your ship that's just for the job of allowing you to maneuver at like a couple meters a second to be able to line up perfectly with, say, the Starfarer that's coming in to help you. Because otherwise, the Starfarer would it'd be almost impossible to dock with you safely. So they're going to basically a little bit of a reserve fuel load there to kind of make sure it can safely do it. So even if you're 000, you can still be able to get what you need. So let's go into the roadmap roundup next. So these are where the actual changes were made in a lot of things. So in the deliverable section, we have rest stop hangar replacement. Okay, no one's got time for that. So, rest stop hangar replacement, creating exterior pieces for small and medium hangars that will allow them to function properly as exteriors. So this is one for one, the exact descriptions we've already covered. So I'm not going to go over these for the actual descriptions. I'm just going to talk about the time distances we're talking about. So I would not be surprised if this is tied in with Port Olisar and also Ruin Station and a lot of the modular nature. I think this is a far-reaching issue. of creating exterior pieces for small and medium hangars that allow them to look and function properly as part of an overall space station exterior. You're going to have hangars that look completely different if they're inside an asteroid, or if they are, say, part of a massive station from a bygone company from hundreds of years ago, like Ruin Station, and they have unique set pieces to them that need them to be integrated. You can't just put an R&R hangar and just plop it in. Also, on Port Olisar, famously, it's just open decks. So putting hangars in a future Port Olisar 2.0 would be something that would need to be integrated effectively. And people are going to really pick apart every little nuance of a replacement to Port Olisar, so you better nail it. So I don't know if I'm reading too much into this, but it looks like one of them, a mid-range project that's going to be finished up towards the end of the year, and we can expect that there will be, a little more tie-ins to future station projects that's probably hinting at. That's what a lot of this is there's always hints on these, unfortunately. Atmospheric pressure damage we've already talked about. You can see that it's going to continue towards the middle of September. This is why I postulated that it will not make it to 3.14 unless there's just a floor of death or something like that, or they've already completed a lot of it, and this is possibly, adding in like the specifics of like, okay, for this specific ship, it's going to have this atmospheric pressure applied. They might even have just raw numbers. Like the Starfarer has it can go down to this exact height, and then it blows up. But the Arrow can only go to this exact height above it, and then it blows up. That's it. Whereas, pressure damage really should have like a damaging effect and then finally destroy the ship as it continues to go down. Like submarines in the old bygone eras of World War I, World War II, you heard stories of them crumpling in like a tin can and then finally popping. So like a lot of ships were able to go to pressure depth, test it, and go, yep, it's starting to crinkle. Let's get out of here, and start moving back up away from that depth. Fascinating stuff. I would love to be on a ship testing that out, and testing my medical insurance probably as well. So I am kind of confused about this one. I feel like I'm in that GIF. Oh, here we are. So spacescaping, okay. Well, it's gas cloud tech, so poor Space Whale. Space Whale scheduled all the way out for June. Wait a minute. The whale's done. Sorry for yelling into the mic. What? Wait, which team is this? This is also important. You got to be careful which team you're actually talking about. Okay, so that's just character arts. They in tech team. Okay, all right. So they drew the whale. They have the whale concept. They have it modeled. Probably the statue is a very close proximity. The statue is probably literally the whale right there. This statue is probably the whale, with slight variations to make it a statue. But there you go. So they finished the statue, and then the actual modeling and animations of it, the creature's AI behaviors, how it's going to float through the air, how players are going to be able to interact or not interact with it, because there'll be 6,000 YouTube videos of people ramming the whale and damaging it or something if they can, or stealing it or whatever. Which, that one sounds amazing, actually, having a pet whale. But anyway, that is what we're dealing with there. Sorry for yelling at the mic. Refinery ships. Let's bring that over. And you can do this yourself. I mean, this is something that we're going to be... I just wanted to show you how to manipulate this tool for multiple things. Your deliverables are very important. The release view is useful, but it's less updated as far as I could tell. It's not in the weeds as much. But, we already talked about the EU team being a major thing. If you could take away one thing from everything I'm saying today, is that go into teams and go to the EU PU gameplay feature team, and these are the stars right now of 3.14, 3.141, 3.14 if there's going to be a 2. So content creators, if you're looking for content, these are the folks to talk about. These are the things that you really want to dig into. And please do. I'm an open book. But environmental gameplay, we already talked about. Release view. So these right here, this is like the warning saying, hey, please don't hold us to this, even though we hold it to us. And we already talked about this from the beginning. And this is about as good a spot to finish as any to capstone this. I already showed, I was going to share Xylo's thing at the end, but I already showed Xylo's pictures. I'm going to send it, like I said, I'm going to put a link into the roadmap. Actually, I'll do it to this exact Spectrum dispatch, the one that I prefer. If you have questions, now is the time. Reply to this forum post, like to Spectrum post, today, as soon as possible, as soon as you're seeing this, and post in any issues, questions, comments, because you may get lucky and Ulf may be able to comment, or maybe one of the EU feature team, maybe they'll take a peek. They usually look a lot harder at these type of posts. And like we saw yesterday on the lore post, I really appreciate that the lore team was very active and they posted a few times to people's questions, comments, and concerns about the Galactopedia updates. If you haven't already seen that video, that'll be the other video I'll tie in today. But I am going to be out of here. Please like, comment, subscribe if you like this kind of content. Also, if you prefer to speak to me privately, I have a Discord that I hang out on and help admin. We do a lot of different games, including Star Citizen, and enjoy it. And also, you can privately reach out to me at redj #0001 directly in Discord. And that'll do it today.